Welcome. This is CrazyMan7777 here, back for a new strategy guide on Tiger 131. And why Tiger 131 exactly? Well, it's because this tank, although a popular tank, which is something that I don't normally review or do a strategy guide on, for that matter, it is a tank that I believe is underestimated in short-range combat. So I'd like to kind of explain reasons why it's better than the normal Tiger in short-range combats, as well as the reasons why I think in general it's good at being a kind of a bully tank right at the close range. And I would also like to do it because this tank is just dang cool. So, without further ado, go into the pros and cons. The pros and cons of Tiger 131 are, firstly, the pros. We have heavy, for tier 7 at least, fairly heavy turret armor. So the turret on the front of the tank's turrets is, or the gun mantlets armor up in here is 160, which is fairly high. Not quite T29 high for tier 7, but nobody will be penetrating that unless they've got like a 12.8 or some ridiculous gun like that. And the gun is also nothing to laugh at, although smaller than the regular Tiger's gun. This gun can reload at best in about 4 seconds and at worst in 5.5 seconds. So this gun can definitely continue to put a hole in the enemy. And this thing has a traverse speed of 28 degrees per second, which is definitely nothing to laugh at. It can turn fairly quick for a heavy tank, and it also possesses ability to go 40 kilometers per hour, which is pretty fast for a heavy tank. Now, again, with the armor, have 120 for most of the front, and that's not all that great for tier 7. Basically, the question with this tank's armor is not if people penetrate, but more or less when. Tanks like the T29 and other Tigers will definitely go through your hull. So what you really want to do is angle against the enemy to increase the chances of bouncing, and really put the enemy in a position where it's very hard to hit you, or it is too lengthy a distance to aim properly and actually manage to punch you. So those are really the two strategies with the Tiger 1, I believe. And I think the underestimated strategy is hitting people hard at close range. And I believe that because of the Tiger 131's ability to turn very fast and go very fast for a heavy tank, as well as pack a punch every 5 seconds, we get definitely a hard experience for the enemies at close range. Now, of course, the really big con with this tank is the armor, wherein people can penetrate you from the side with pretty much any tank, and they can penetrate you from the front with most tier 7s. And derp guns really become a problem with this tank. I've been killed by derp guns multiple times in a couple of hits because this thing has such low frontal armor. So one thing to keep in mind is kind of to stay in cover and pop in and out when you are playing the close range man, and when you're playing, even when you're playing long range, in case you meet some heavy opposition like a Borsig in tier 8, which is the highest tier that this thing can play against, you will want to go back and cover quickly or face the wrath, as it were. And that is just like any other tank, I think. But I think with this tank you also have to take into account tier 7s, which the T29 or the Black Prince have much easier time dealing with than Tiger 131 itself. But nevertheless, I think that this tank is much better at close range than sniping, and there's a little bit of fact behind it. That is, of course, because you have the lower velocity shells with the smaller gun or shorter gun, and have the lower damage and lower penetration. Of course, penetration and damage usually drop off over distance. So when you're firing at people from distance, oftentimes you can either miss because this thing is a little bit inaccurate, even though it says 0.36. And you can also very easily do little damage, 180 damage with low penetration, not so good. So I think that keeping it close range with this tank is really a must, but of course with all the facts you can do whatever you want. So other than that, there's two minor or at least significant things that are needed to be mentioned with Tiger 131. Firstly is that if you have equipment that you can put on this tank, you really should. WoT ammo rack is definitely very useful, and in the skills, armor and safe stowage is also very helpful. And that is because, like other premium tanks, this tank has acquired by Choice of Wargaming a higher than the regular version of it chance of getting the gun and ammo rack messed up in close range combat, much more than the regular Tiger, I would say. And you guys saw where the ammo rack is. This might even have nothing to do with the chance, that it has more of just where the ammo is in the tank. There's just more of a chance of this getting hit and than the regular Tiger. As you can look at, the ammo rack is in less places basically in the regular Tiger. So with all that in mind, try to demonstrate to you guys in a game what it looks like to play the Tiger. So firstly, in the strategy, we always have a kind of different strategy for the different kinds of battle as well as maps. Muravanka is a little bit more of a difficult map for Tiger 131 because we have these large open spaces to traverse to get to the action, as it were. But the thing that is really special about an encounter battle for Tiger 131 is that we have the high reload speed, of course my gun rammer, and we have the high traverse speed. So if the enemy all go, or at least most of the enemy, if they go for the cap circle, we can really put some rounds in them while they're trying to do that. So we can hope with Tiger 131 is that not only with its speed we get to the battle before or most of the enemy tanks do, but also when we get there are able to continually pound them to a pulp. That's really what we can do. Tiger 131, it's kind of like a E25 heavy tank version, where we don't have all that much armor, but the reload speed and the damage that we can do within a short amount of time is really where we start kicking the enemy team in the face. So, and of course, with any game with the Tiger, we need it to have at least another heavy tank in tow or light tank spotting for us, because we are a heavy tank and we don't have infinite wisdom, or we don't have infinite resources in the way of range and spotting and all that. So being in heavy tank, being surrounded by the enemy team, which is what could often happen and might happen in this game, as well as having a bunch of medium tanks go after you at short range may be a problem. So really, the people that you want to be fighting with this tank at short range should really be other heavy tanks like I'm doing right now. But if you want to fight, let's say, medium tanks or light tanks, you'll want to try to keep a little bit of a distance, because we've really got some issues with the Tiger 131 and being able to, with any Tiger tank, and being able to outmaneuver enemies. And as you can see, I've managed to be one of the few people that's in the cap circle, so this is going to be all kinds of fun for me. Going to have to try to fight T-29, or maybe not. Let's see. Enemy behind us, T-29 in front of us. T-29 insisting on using his turret armor. And here, see kind of a problem with the Tiger 131, which is that we have to rush people that are hulled down, because as Tiger 131 all by itself cannot penetrate, because we have a smaller gun, cannot penetrate the cupola of the T-29, which would be my first and foremost solution to any T-29 issues. Helpfully, this guy is clearly a terrible T-29 player. We cannot always have that luxury, of course. And with that turn speed, you can get that Skodka bastard right away. Really gonna put that mobility to the test. Ooh. Missed that one. I think we might be the last guy alive if this goes poorly. This is going to be quite a match, boyos. Oh boy. Yeah, alright. Like I said before, I can't win with a Tiger even if you're surrounded. So, there's kind of a close range battle for you guys with Tiger 131. Decent amount of fire coming at us, and dealt with it pretty well. Hopefully, give you guys a little bit of insight into how to play Tiger 131 at close range, not really at long range.